Alright, it's Christopher Foss once again, and this is request assigned for. Hold on. Sorry guys, this is time for Jimmy, and the name of this video is 29 Years Later I Rewatched Short Circuit 2. Okay, let's check it out. Yay.
People are looking at you, they see a machine, so they are treating you like a machine.
But this causes strange feeling, emotion. It's not good.
And what emotion is this?
Feels like desert, wasteland.
Can you explain a little more explicitly, please?
Unpleasant, hollow, cold.
Is it loneliness?
Loneliness, solitude. Yes, I have read about this in many books. Francis Bacon said, a crowd is not company, and faces are but a gallery.
I've only seen the first Short Circuit, so.
Oh, well, you're hitting the nail right between the
A movie square.
29 years. That's how long it's been since the last time I watched Short Circuit 2. Does it hold up? Yes, it does. Welcome to the Movie Squib channel.
Oh, it's Jason.
I'm your host, Charlie, and today
Okay.
I'm going to discuss the
Jason's going to talk about Short Circuit 2.
Short Circuit 2. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a short summary of the plot. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the movie, and finally, I'm going to give you the 3 scenes that I cried during this movie. So let's go ahead and start with the plot of Short Circuit 2. Short Circuit 2 is a 1988 science fiction comedy directed by Kenneth Johnson. It's the sequel to the 1986 film Short Circuit. The film stars Fisher Stevens as Ben Javari, Michael McKean as Fred Ritter, Cynthia Gibb as Sandy Banatoni, and Tim Blaney as the voice of Johnny Five. So the movie starts off with Ben Javari. He's been fired from Nova Robotics after the events of the first film, and he decides to start his own toy company called Titanic Toy Corporation. He's basically selling a toy version of Johnny Five, and he's selling them up on the street when one of them escapes and ends up in the hands of Sandy Banatoni. She's an assistant buyer for a toy department and is looking for a hot new toy for the spring. Now, Sandy goes up to Ben and she asks for 1,000 of these units, but unfortunately Ben is working out of his van and he can't provide the 1,000 units that Sandy needs. Luckily, Fred, who's selling fake Rolex watches right next to him, overhears. He sees an opportunity to make some cash, and he smooth talks his way into becoming Ben's business partner and even takes out a loan from a loan shark to fund the project. But unfortunately, things take a turn for the worse when Ben and Fred move into the derelict warehouse that they just rented out. They've got their operation going, and they've got the manpower, and they've got the equipment, but unbeknownst to them, underneath the warehouse itself are 2 thugs that are digging a hole across the street so that they can break into a bank vault and steal these priceless diamonds that are in there currently. Now, these 2 robbers end up assaulting Ben and Fred. They scare off the workers. They destroy the equipment in order to get them to move out of the warehouse, but Ben ends up calling Stephanie and Newton, which are 2 characters from the first movie, and they end up sending Johnny Five. Now, if you've never seen Short Circuit 1, Johnny Five is basically a military prototype robot that was struck by lightning and became sentient. He's got a childlike sense of wonderment to him, and he's very trusting, but he's very knowledgeable as well, and he's always looking for input. Now, Johnny Five ends up picking up where the workers left off. He starts building the robots at a much faster pace. He also scares away the 2 bank robbers when they try to come back and assault Ben and Fred again. Now, halfway through the story, Johnny Five learns that he's in the big city and he decides to go out. He loves input, he loves to interact with people, but the problem with Johnny Five is that he's very trusting. So on his first outing outside, he's treated like crap. He's deceived by some gang members into stealing some car stereos. Even Fred at one point tries to sell Johnny Five when he finds out that he's worth $11 million. But after Fred tries to sell Johnny Five, he comes to his senses and he regrets doing it. Now, there's another character in this movie called Oscar. He's a bank worker that befriends Johnny Five, but he unfortunately is working with the 2 bank robbers, and he ends up tricking Johnny Five into helping him dig the hole underneath the warehouse all the way across the bank and break into the bank vault and steal the jewels. While Oscar is making Johnny Five do all of that, the robbers have kidnapped Ben and Fred, and they've locked them into a freezer. Now, Ben and Fred end up escaping from the freezer, and they end up doing it by sending these music messages to Sandy Sandy, which ends up turning into this fun little chase to figure out where they are. Sandy ends up freeing Ben and Fred. Fred goes looking for Johnny Five while Ben deals with the cops who have found the tunnel underneath the warehouse. Now Johnny Five catches up to Oscar and he ends up trying to detain him, but the two robbers end up assaulting him in the most brutal way. They almost
Oh my
kill
God.
Johnny Five. He's bleeding battery fluid. He's
And this is meant for kids?
Fred finds him in a state of disrepair, but Fred ends up helping Johnny Five to recover a bit so that Johnny Five can chase down Oscar and the thugs and bring them to justice. In the end, Johnny Five ends up taking out the thugs as well as Oscar, but not before unfortunately losing all of his battery power and losing his life essentially. So what Ben does is he grabs a defibrillator and he charges it up and he hits Johnny Five until Johnny Five ends up coming back alive.
But this defibrillator is clear.
Scene at the end where he says this line that I absolutely love.
Oh, but I've got such a headache.
Now in the end, Johnny Five becomes a celebrity. Ben, Fred, and Sandy start a new company called Input Inc. with Johnny as their mascot. Johnny and Ben even become citizens of the United States.
He's gone.
And the movie ends. Now, before I get to the 3 scenes that I cried during this movie, let me tell you my thoughts.
Okay,
I
Jason.
absolutely enjoyed this movie. After 29 years, I was afraid that the movie was not going to hold up, but it certainly
I should see the first
it's
one
emotional.
in a while.
There's a beautiful soundtrack. The scenes are just wonderfully played. I highly recommend that you watch it. I actually enjoyed this movie much more than I enjoyed the first movie. Not to say that the first movie isn't good, but this movie is truly special to me. Now, let me give you the 3 moments in this movie that put me in tears. Now, the first scene that put me in tears is this beautiful scene where Johnny Five and Ben are talking, and Johnny Five is explaining to him that he feels so lonely, and it's so difficult because
join the
he's a
club, man. I am
and
too.
He can't connect with people. And then Ben ends up explaining that even though he's a human, he feels the same way as an Indian man who has trouble speaking. It is such a beautiful scene with such a great soundtrack in the background, and it was the first one to put me in tears.
What are these foolish clothing you're wearing? Time to look human, fit in, belong. Unsuccessful.
Oh, we're down.
Now, the second scene that put me in tears, and if anybody else has seen Short Circuit 2, I'm sure you've been in the same situation, but that is the scene where Johnny Five gets beat down by the 2 robbers. This
that was brutal.
Is so heartbreaking.
It
He's
is.
telling them no, and they're just beating down on him. This scene will just absolutely break your heart.
Stop, please! Not just me!
Oh my God.
No, please! I'm alive!
Damn.
No, do not kill me!
Now, the final scene that gave me the Niagara Falls is the scene where Ben ends up reviving Johnny Five after Johnny Five ends up fully dying.
Where's Megan when you need her?
He's trying his hardest to revive him. He cares for his friend. And then Johnny Five wakes up and he says this line that is just so beautiful.
Say something. Ben. My friend. Oh my God. Number 25.
So there you have it. There are the 3 scenes that put me in tears. I hope that you enjoyed this small little review on Short Circuit 2. I know it's an older movie, but I truly enjoyed reviewing it. I had such a great time revisiting this movie after 29 years. Thank you so much for listening. If you like what you hear, hit the like, hit the subscribe. But if you don't, that's okay. I truly appreciate that you enjoyed this video. Thank you, and I'll speak to you all soon.
Bye, Jason. Yeah, man. That movie must have been sad, man. Especially as a kid, that movie was. The first one I remember not being too funny, but you need to rewatch it again. Might review it on the channel one day, but yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. Take care. See you in the next video, which will be next. Peace out.